healer that you talked about right now. So I know that you created it in like two different platforms. So the first time that you originally created it was like kind of an in-person live experience, but then during the times of pandemic you also had to like recreate it for the virtual experience. So in the times of pandemic, so how do you think about like the art, creating art for a virtual medium?
It was such a huge challenge. I think so many of us experienced that over the last almost 2 years at this point. Particularly for all of us who had pieces that were ready to go in that springtime of 2020, which is a popular time to share new works. It's one thing to kind of start from the get-go being like, okay, this will be a virtual performance. How can I make those plans and create, make some artistic choices around that really specifically? But the healer was ready to go like the weekend before the city decided to shut down. The weekend after the city decided to shut down was when we were going to be performing it. So it was created, it was conceptualized, the set design was all done, and so that was a unique challenge to go from something that was so driven to be in person. Like you said, there were all these different like sensory experiences that we had planned, and like tea tasting and note writing and essential oil sort of like diffused throughout the space, like just lots of different elements that were really ingrained in the piece itself. It took quite some time. I think I had to step away for a little bit of time to understand what could be possible and just to like understand what was happening in the world at that moment. But after some time, it felt really relevant and really like an offering that I felt capable of giving to our community in terms of the content that it was talking about. Like, how do we create space to reflect and realize that there's so much healing that can be done within each of us, and that we have sort of that power and experience to carry ourselves through really difficult times. And then it was just about like, how do we do this really safely? So it was conversations with the dancers and with our technical team, lots of really thoughtful planning around testing, and we like isolated in separate apartments for a number of days, and then we tested again, and then when everyone came back negative, we potted in an apartment like it was a local tour in San Francisco, and we didn't see our partners or puppies had puppies at that time for the whole filming experience. So it was a lot of dedication on the part of my collaborators and the other artists who weren't physically dancing. We did everything virtually. So Daniel Berkman, who made this beautiful original score, we were just on Zoom, like listening to final tracks and talking about how different the sound might have to be because we were filming it instead of performing it live. So it was a mixture of reinventing what could be done and just being really thoughtful and determined to get it where we needed it to be, to share it in January. But it was a really rewarding experience, and I'm really proud of what everyone was able to offer. And we just translated other things like audience participation. I just reached out to a bunch of people in my community and asked them to record themselves doing it at home. So the whole beginning introduction is 20-ish people doing some of the things we were going to ask the audience to do: take off their shoes, wash their hands, some like, basic rituals into sort of creating space to see this piece of art. So it was just constant like new ideas of the concepts and translating it to that moment. But it was quite a challenge, but it was also really gratifying.
Yeah, so because your pieces are like have that element of like having collaborating with the audience on doing this thing, so you must have had to like rethink about like how do I fill in those gaps with the unavailability of people in the same space. So I see that it could have been a challenge in which you have overcome very well. So congratulations on that one. And so like next, now this digital platform, so that was not something new to you, because you've worked with a lot of dance companies as a dancer, but at the same time you've also worked as a digital strategist for them. And something very cool that I found was you worked as an industry experience with one of the dance based gaming apps, I think, Joans. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but so how was the experience, like interacting with this digital and social media platforms?
Yeah, I think that we've talked as an industry a lot about each artist having to step back and decide what is it that they want to offer in this moment, and what is a like genuine and authentic piece of work for them to explore while they don't have their typical space and human connection and in-person experiences. Um, and I totally respect and honor that there are many people in our dance field who are just who took some time away to reevaluate what it is they wanted to say, or to upfront say, like, this digital pivot is not how I want to present my artwork. And that's wonderful. We'll be here, you know, waiting and excited for when we're all able to return to in person. But I do think that my past experiences made me feel much more comfortable with these opportunities to try something new. And it wasn't a huge leap for me to have to re-educate myself. And as much as I didn't do a ton of dance film personally, I, like, as you said, I had a lot of experience in sort of digital platforms and social media in my work outside of my art making for other arts organizations. And that just set me up to feel like it wasn't a huge leap, and it was something I could feel familiar with. And as much as it doesn't maybe fulfill those same things, I had those foundational skills in video editing and sort of digital marketing, and I had already asked a lot of the questions around sort of digital storytelling and what can be an impactful way of making that happen. And it is really different than anything that you'd experience in person. So I think having those years of really asking those questions and discovering my own answers to them allowed me to have a better starting position than others. And I was really grateful for that. And I would have never anticipated it. Like, I think the two live together for sure. Like, there's a reason why it's always been so fulfilling to be both a choreographer and work in what I like, in marketing, which I think is really essentially just telling your story to your community. But I had never really seen them collide as much as they have in the last year and a half. And it's been a really interesting experience.
I know nobody would have thought about like the possibilities that everybody in the art community and a lot of other things in the world, the new normal started kind of doing. So even the art community, I know it's not the same experience as live and not the same experience as exchanging that energy in the same space, but it was a challenge for the entire community, I think, to see what new creative juices flow out. And so that's, I think, very well navigated.